here's a top 10 I've had on the back burner for a while. This list is based off of purely how fun the games are and how much replay value they may have. So without further ado, let's go.
Number 10.
The first minigame on our list is called Tox Box Shuffle. As you might guess from the title, there's some Tox boxes and they shuffle a lot. Inside one of these boxes is Yoshi, and the goal is to find out which box he's in. This minigame starts off pretty easy, with the boxes moving pretty slow and smoothly. As time moves on though, the boxes get faster and faster, making it harder to tell which box Yoshi is in. I don't know about you, but I've got a pretty good eye and am able to keep up with what's going on. I've always loved games like this for some reason. Other versions of this type of game are usually too easy for me, but this one is actually challenging and has a great build-up too. Tox Box Shuffle throws a curveball into this mix. You'll eventually find another Yoshi, so now you'll have to keep track of both of them at once. I also love the random Mario head that just kind of watches you play. The words say Mario Mini? I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. Anyway, this minigame is really satisfying and rewards you for having a good eye on the boxes and for deep focus. A lot of the minigames in this collection don't really require your attention, therefore making you feel like you aren't really accomplishing anything, but you do need to focus for this one to make it far. What's nice is that you're allowed to make one mistake per level, because your eyes will probably stumble after playing this for a while. The background also looks very basic. I can tell that this was done on purpose to help the Tox boxes pop out a little bit better. The only bad thing about this minigame is that it can get a bit dull at times, but it's still pretty sweet.
Number 9.
Here's a pretty goofy game, Shell Smash. The idea is simple. You grab a paddle and whack a shell and try to hit other shells for points. The more shells you hit in one round, the higher your point streak will be. If you manage to collide into your own green shells, you'll get an even bigger point bonus. Something about this game feels broken, and something about it feels just right. You need to be extremely precise with your aim since it's all touchscreen based. There's been several times where I think I hit the shell straight up, but it ends up curving to the right or left. I'm not sure if that's the game's fault or mine, but I think it's just mine. Getting a high score in Shell Smash is kind of luck-based since it's really hard to tell where the shells are going to end up, but that's what makes it so fun. You're forced to strategize about each round, and you have to figure out where you'll likely get the most points. There's a sense of excitement in wondering how many points you'll garner. This is a really basic game, but it's a lot of fun smacking around the shells and watching them travel from the bottom to the top of the screen. The only thing I'm wondering now is if the Koopas are still in these shells, or if their shells were stolen. We may never know.
Number 8.
Ah yes, this one is a home run. Connect the characters. This is one of those games that can really only be played on a touchscreen, and that makes it pretty special compared to the two minigames we talked about before, which could use traditional controls if need be. So the goal is to match each character's head with the body. The heads travel by paths, and you'll have to draw lines to redirect where each head is going. This may sound simple enough, but when you draw one line for one of the heads, that could easily change the direction for another head. So you have to make sure every path works for every head before you hit that go button. You play in rounds of 5, so you need to be cautious of how much space you're using at any given time. As the rounds get higher and higher, you'll encounter different types of heads like Luigi and Wario. It's nice having a bit of variety. With the addition of new heads, it's also more challenging to keep track of where each head needs to be. My favorite part of this game is that when you match a head with the body, the character will shout with joy, and usually it's all 4 voices at once, and something about that just makes me chuckle. I really like the puzzle element in this game. You gotta be careful about where you're drawing lines and how many you're drawing as well. The sound effects are also really satisfying. There's a nice click when the heads bop around your paths. Connect the character may be a bit too heavily based around puzzles for me, but it's still one of my favorite minigames.
Number 7.
Ready to get freaked out and scared? Well, good, because next on our list is Trampoline Terror. Why this is supposed to be a terrifying minigame is beyond me, but let's talk about this one for a minute. Right off the bat, we got the amazing secret chorus music from Super Mario Sunshine, so that's already a huge plus in my books. The goal is to send Mario through a series of rainbow rings using trampolines. The longer you play, the harder it is to get Mario into the rings because they'll start moving and rotating, making it hard to predict where Mario needs to go. The gimmick for this game is that you, the player, draws the trampolines for Mario. You can draw the trampolines at any angle, which gives you control of which direction Mario is launched. The smaller the trampoline size, the bigger the bounce, and vice versa. This may sound like an easy minigame, but actually aiming and drawing these trampolines can be pretty hard to do, especially when more than one Mario spawns in. Plus, you're only allowed to draw 3 trampolines at a time, so if you draw one at a strange angle and Mario doesn't hit it, it'll be stuck there and you'll have to wait for it to fade away, or hope that another Mario lands on it. There's also a mega trampoline at the very bottom that will allow Mario to bounce off of it 3 times, but you only want to use that for emergencies. Doing well in Trampoline Terror does take some practice. There's a lot you need to calculate. I prefer this minigame over the other ones we've already discussed simply because it's faster paced and requires you to be on your feet at all times. And while this game moves quick, there's plenty of room for error. If you keep missing the rings, that's not a big deal. There's no time limit or anything like that. The only goal is to get the points and that's it. Since you can make so many mistakes, you'll have plenty of time to learn how the controls work. I really wish this game was co-op because man would this be a blast to play with someone else.
Number 6.
This is probably the only game where you'll ever get to control the Spinies. Lekka 2 Launch is all about launching a bunch of these guys into tubs. If you land a bunch of Spinies into a tub, it'll start to fall and sometimes even land on the ground for a few seconds. To do this, you'll use a slingshot to throw Spinies from the bottom screen to the top. You have unlimited ammo, so you're welcome to spam as much as you please. The tubs move from side to side and up and down, so if you launch a Spiny high in the air, it's gonna be less likely to land in the tub. Whenever a tub falls all the way to the bottom, it's the greatest feeling flinging a million Spinies since it's much easier to aim from below. Lekka 2 Launch requires a lot of precision because you need to predict where each Spiny is going to land. Also, look at these random toads just running around flipping the hell out. These toads combined with the soothing, relaxing music just bust the gut open for me. But yeah, this minigame really launches my spirits when I play it.
Number 5.
Cracking our list next is Bounce and Pounce. And real quick, I have to point out that all the names for these minigames are so blunt and to the point. Anyway, so this may look pretty similar to Trampoline Terror, and that's because it's kind of the same thing. Instead of going through rings, you have to bounce off of Shy Guys. And instead of Mario jumping off trampolines, you'll simply tap him. You'll go through this game by rounds, and you have to defeat waves of Shy Guys. While Trampoline Terror is fun in its own merit, I've always preferred this game over that one. The main reason is because I feel like I'm in more control. The trampolines do work fine, but it's a bit annoying when you draw a trampoline and Mario falls through it. Tapping Mario, on the other hand, almost never fails. You're allowed to mess up 3 times, so it's pretty akin to the safety trampoline. After 10 rounds, your death streak will reset, so that's pretty fair if you ask me. The challenge here is aiming Mario in the correct direction and keeping track of where all the Marios are. And I can't deny that the Wing Cap remix is pretty godlike. I'm glad that Nintendo took the extra time to change the original song up a bit. Overall, Bounce and Pounce is incredibly addicting once you get the hang of how the game plays.
Number 4.
And here we have another game that's very similar to the one we've already covered. Mario Slide's objection is to get the Mario's heads to land on the star. To do that, you'll draw paths to guide Mario to the correct place. One of the biggest differences is that you aren't given any time to take a break or pause to make a decision. Mario is constantly moving, so you need to think and react on the fly. For that reason, I prefer this minigame over Connect the Character because it feels a bit more intuitive. Now, if you happen to finish drawing your lines ahead of time, there is a skip button you can hold so that you don't have to wait for slow old Mario to make his way down. As you get farther and farther into this game, you'll eventually have to deal with 2 Mario heads at once, and even 3. This is where the game gets really challenging, because you have to manage 2 or 3 heads that are moving in different directions at different times. The music fits perfectly with Mario's slides as well. It has this fast-paced mystery vibe which works well since you have to figure out which way Mario needs to go in a quick amount of time. Whenever I think of Mario 64 DS, this is one of the first minigames that comes to mind.
Number 3.
Let's talk about the only Luigi-themed minigame on this list, Paragon and On. The name doesn't have much of a ring to it, but the game itself is incredibly addicting. The goal is to match together cards in groups of 2. You'll do this with the cards that are horizontally, vertically, or diagonally aligned. As the game goes on, you'll start to see a new variation of cards thrown into the mix to make the game more challenging. I know this game is really simplistic, but something about this just makes me want to keep playing for hours and hours on end. If you're good enough, you could do that since this is a never-ending game. Well, I mean, never ending until you've run out of matches at least. I found that the best strategy is to make sure you always have matches near the top. That way, if you run out of matches, then you can usually find some near the bottom. Now, why Nintendo associated Luigi with gambling and casinos is beyond me, but I do like that he's our card man. Is there a name for people that pass out cards in casinos? I feel like there is. If there is, guys, let me know in the comments down below. I also love how Toad just randomly walks around with drinks in his hand. Like, who is he serving? That better just be Kool-Aid since, you know, this is supposed to be a kid's game.
Number 2.
And here we have yet another minigame that's similar to one we've already talked about. Bob-Omb Squad should remind you of Like-A-2 Launch because the premise is almost the same. You have a catapult and you flick balls into the air. This time, however, there's a billion Bob-Ombs that are coming down and trying to destroy 4 flowers. Yeah, the bombs just want to blow up some flowers. That's what you're defending. Why these 4 little flowers are so important, I don't know, but that's just the goal, man. Like-A-2 will also fly onto the screen occasionally, and if you manage to hit him, you'll get a screen wipe and all Bob-Ombs will explode instantly. What's nice about this game compared to Like-A-2 Launch is that you really feel like you're hitting a target. Landing the Spinies in the tubs requires some good timing and precision, but here you just aim, fire, and smack your target right out of the air. There isn't nearly as much thought, but that doesn't mean you just spam the balls. You do still need to aim pretty accurately, but there's less pressure with this minigame. It's kinda hard to describe, it's just more satisfying hitting stuff in this one. But now, let's move on to my favorite Mario 64 DS minigame. Let's do this. And now, my number 1 favorite Super Mario 64 DS minigame is... Oh man, this has to be one of my favorite minigames from any game ever. Sword or Splode has a very basic premise, and man is it a blast to play. I'm so sorry about that pun. Honestly, I don't even feel bad, that was pretty good. So the goal is to sort the black Bob-Ombs into the black pit and the pink Bob-Ombs into the pink pit. Once you gather 40 Bob-Ombs in a pit, the game will pause and count out all 40. I'm guessing this happens to avoid lag on the bottom screen, but I don't know. As the game moves forward, the bombs will start to spawn out in groups of 2, and then groups of 3, and everything just gets faster and faster and faster. The challenge isn't so much sorting out the bombs, but it's keeping up with the pace. If you miss grabbing one of the bombs, that's gonna cost you heavily. You have to move as quickly and fluidly as possible because you don't want lone, stranded bombs out in the field. If a bomb doesn't go into the correct pit fast enough, it'll explode and end your game. If you put the wrong colored bomb into a pit, you'll lose all of your progress in that pit. And you might think something like that'll never happen, but when you have to react as quickly as you do in Sword or Splode, it's very possible for that to happen. And you know, maybe this minigame is so near and dear to me because I used to play this with my dad, just this minigame. Whenever me and my family watched TV back in the day, sometimes we would take turns playing this to see who could get the highest score. My dad was always better than I was, but it was still a great experience that I will never forget. And there you have it. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this, and let me know in the comments what your favorite Mario 64 DS minigame is and why. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.